What is going on, everyone? It is me, Troi, and I'm here again with the video at this glorious, beautiful Veterans Park. As you can see, there's a fountain here, and this water here, this represents blood spilled during the wars and stuff. You can kind of see all the memorials and stuff, and then further along they have like actual planes and things like that. But it's a beautiful day, and I love trying to take advantage of being out, especially when it's almost about to turn into, like, you know, they call it cozy weather season or something. But September is my second favorite month. But so, you know, down here it don't get cold until like late October. But anyway, I'm here because I want to make sure that I'm stay productive, you know, making videos regardless of whether somebody watches them or not. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy clicking on the camera and just sharing my thoughts with the world, being crazy. But I'm here to share my Friday reads, what I plan on reading this weekend, which I started the book yesterday. But I'm going to take, after a 19-year hiatus, no, it's not a hiatus, but after a 19-year, it's going to be a 19 years later reread of Minion by L.A. Banks. This is the first book in her Vampire Huntress series. And I discovered this book, or this series, like I said, 19 years ago. And, you know, it was right after that Buffy ended. And, you know, here we are with a book series, as somebody who likes to read, featuring a black woman fighting vampires and, you know, her entire crew or whatever. Fascinating stuff. I cannot believe this series ran from 2003 all the way until 2009. And at one point, L.A. Banks was releasing like 2 books in the series a year, plus another series, a werewolf series. She was releasing books within that series at the same time. L.A. Banks was hot and popping back then, back in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, well, early 2010s. But unfortunately, she passed away back in August of 2011. So it's going to be a reread for me because I just been hungry to reread this series. Even more, I've been hungry to fully read her Crimson Moon series, which I never completed. But you know, I had intentions of reading the entire series 2 years ago after I collected every book in that series, and I never picked it up. But I'm here at Minion right now. Right now, the focus is on Minion. So I ended up checking out this particular copy, which is a mass market edition, because, you know, the series started out in trade paperbacks, but then, of course, there's the mass market publications. And this particular book has some scenes added, and they were really necessary. Hopefully they are necessary, because the first book was fairly difficult to get into, you know what I'm saying, if you know about it. So I'm hoping that these added scenes just bring a little bit more, or a lot more color to the series, and really get me juiced up and geared up to and excited to read more and more of the books. But you know, like I said, a black vampire huntress and her crew, very detailed books, very filled with a lot of different ideas and stuff and metaphors for when it comes to like the vampire councils and how they represent corporations. Very detailed stuff. I think, and I will just be honest, some of it can read as in like suffocating because it's so heavy. But there was a thought that just crossed my brain, and it fainted away, but it was very, very important, and it just all of a sudden disappeared. But anyway, that's really neither here nor there. I am enjoying myself. I'm enjoying being out. I cannot wait to go home and get ready to read more of this book. Actually, I can wait to go home. I like being out here. I can't do them both at the same time. So, but yeah, L.A. Banks' book, The Minion, first book in her Vampire Hunter series, is going to be a reread. And I'm ready to see. I'm ready to take my 16 years later or 19 years later brain and pit it up against my 19 years ago brain and see how much of what I've all missed reading this series. So, oh, I know what I was about to mention. There was a book in this series called The Bitten, and that was, the significance of that is that was a book out of just very few books that I've ever shed a tear over. By the end of the book, that was a book that I shed a tear over toward the end of. So I'm ready to see how I feel about that now, years later. After reading Nora Roberts' books, all last month, within the month of August, I said I want to do something completely on the opposite side of that. Not to be contrary to whatever it is that I was doing at that time, but just go somewhere completely different. So I said, in the month of September, I want to read some rough and tumble. I'm being silly, but that's how I am anyway. Rough and tumbles, some Wrangler jeans and Stetson cap or cowboy hats type of books. Some books where they're out on the long range and firing at cattle or wrangling up cattle and goats and stuff like that. Some big old manly man books. I'm being silly, but that's just me, right? Anyway, so I said I'm going to do completely opposite of Nora Roberts, and I'm going to read some, number one, they're male authors, and number two, I guess you can say that they're of a mystery series where just, I don't know, all kinds of masculinity and manliness is involved. But yeah, I said I'm going to do this. I love giving myself these kind of little challenges, and these are all books that I have collected over the years. Some of them were recommendations. Like I know one book, a booktuber named Liz Schubert recommended to me some years ago. So I already own these books. I don't have to go and buy them. With the exception that I want to remember, I do not want to forget to say, who I crossed my head, is that I do have a copy on hold of Nathan Harris's new book, Amity or whatever. The library has ordered a copy and I'm first in line, so I'm just waiting on them to let me know, okay, the book is here. So that's one. The second book that I have on my TBR is actually Open Season by C.J. Box. I think it's the first book in his, I get him and another author on this list mixed up, but we'll just say I'm going to be reading Open Season finally. Finally going to read this book that I bought maybe 2 or 3 years ago out of curiosity. So I'm going to be reading Open Season. And I think that you guys are probably familiar with this author and his work as is, so I can keep this brief in saying that finally I'm going to get a taste of this. The next book I'm going to be reading is The Devil's Backbone by Robert Greer. This is the third book in his Floyd, I think his name is C.J. Floyd mystery series. C.J. Floyd is like a bail bondsman who works out in the sort of the Midwest. A lot of his mysteries revolve around like cattle and that sort of deal. But the thing I love about his books, or the thing I love about Robert Greer books, is that his main protagonist is a black man who is involved in all of this. So think a la Walter Mosley, except not so much in the city, but much more in a rural area. Next, I'm going to finally be reading The Cold Dish by Johnson. This is the book that Liz recommended to me some years ago. So I'm going to be finally reading The Cold Dish. I think that Box's main protagonist's name is Pickett, and The Cold Dish is Longmire. Forgive me. So I'm going to finally be reading The Cold Dish. And then the last book that I plan on reading is The Killer Inside Me by Tim Johnson. Now, the thing is, I specifically picked this book because it is a part of the top 100 mystery novels of all time list, and this happens to be the next one on that I'm at, per the 100 list. So I'm finally going to be reading The Killer Inside Me, and that looks like a book that I'm just going to be I'm going to read in probably about a day or two, because it looked that juicy, that psychological drama of this this man with this very reputable, that's what I was looking for, presence within his small community, who just happens to probably be a lot more dangerous than he appears. So that is my reading TBR for the month of September. And of course, I am looking forward to Kristen Britton's new book that comes out, Falling in the Sea of Stars, at the end of the month. So that'll be a good kind of tie over before the month of October. But yeah, it's just kind of a brief TBR, just kind of giving you guys like a general idea of, how I function. Like, I did all that romance reading, and now I want to do something on the complete opposite, and this is what I came up with. And plus, I have all these books at home. That's the beauty of it all, with the exception of a few. So anyway, that's it, guys. We'll see y'all. It's time for me to head back to my hometown, because I'm not even in town. But this is beautiful. God, y'all, we went to the wildlife refuge today. I ought to put some pictures up on that. I could stay there all day. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys are going to be reading within the month of September. And yeah, we'll catch up next time. Maybe when I'm at home. Peace.